Maybe you have absolutely no issue in falling asleep at the beginning of the night. Your issue is one in which you are waking up at the exact same time every single night. And when you do, you are filled with panic, with dread, with anxiety, and it makes it impossible to fall back asleep again. This is what we call sleep maintenance insomnia. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit as to why it happens, how we're actually perpetrating the problem, and what you can do instead in order to find your way out of this repetitive pattern. And before we get into it, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Fiona and I'm a recovered chronic insomniac turned holistic sleep coach. And I too personally struggled with sleep for a very long time, from a lot of difficulties falling asleep at the beginning of the night, but also maintaining my sleep throughout the night. I would wake up at the same time every single night. I would be filled with dread, anxiety. My body would be jolted awake and it would feel like I had had 10 Red Bulls, and no matter what I tried, it'd be impossible for me to get back to sleep. And trust me, I tried everything from sleep hygiene, getting out of bed, CBTI, medications, supplements. Like sometimes if I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I would take extra sleeping pills in order to try and fall back asleep. And even that didn't work. So now, having fully recovered, I can look back at my experience and now having learned about the cycle of insomnia and also the nervous system, I'm here to tell you that it actually gets to be a lot easier than you currently think. And a lot of the information that you're probably receiving regarding insomnia and even things like CBTI imply so much control and so much behavioral effort, when in reality, this is not a logic problem, and this is also not a sleep problem. So we're going to get into why it's difficult to maintain our sleep throughout the night and also what you can do instead. Let's get into it. So what is sleep maintenance insomnia? As the word suggests, sleep maintenance insomnia means that you are having difficulties maintaining your sleep. You have no difficulties falling asleep at the beginning of the night, but it's very difficult for you to maintain and stay asleep. You are woken up maybe a couple minutes after falling asleep, maybe a couple hours. And when you are woken up, that's when you feel all of this rush of adrenaline, anxiety, thoughts, fear, emotions. And in reality, whether it is sleep onset insomnia, so you have difficulties falling asleep at the beginning of the night, or you're having difficulties staying asleep, insomnia is always the same, meaning that our nervous system has identified not sleeping as a problem. And when our body identifies a problem or a threat or something that is dangerous for us, it deploys our stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, into our bloodstream in order to keep us awake and fight off that thing. So we're in the opposite kind of mode. We're not in our rest and digest calm state. We're in fight or flight, which makes it very difficult for us to fall asleep. So our job here is not to logically think our way out of insomnia or try and fix this through logic. It is through showing our body that not sleeping is not in fact a cause for concern. And if you'd like a little bit more information as to insomnia as a whole, if that's not really making a lot of sense, I have linked my free 30-minute masterclass below, which fully explains what insomnia actually is and the 4 layers that you need in order to break the cycle of insomnia holistically. So go ahead and click that below and you'll be able to also understand the cycle of insomnia in a little bit more detail and how we can slowly start to reteach our body that wakefulness isn't in fact a threat. So why are you being woken up to begin with? And it always comes down to our reaction to being awake. Meaning that maybe you never even struggled with sleep to begin with. And one night you wake up, maybe you're stressed, maybe you have a lot going on, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep. And you have some kind of emotional reaction. You're a little bit stressed, you look at the clock, maybe you identify that you have just quite a few more hours and you're just not falling asleep. So you have this emotional reaction. And you for some reason just can't fall back asleep, or it takes you a very long time. And you're already sending these messages back to your brain saying, oh my goodness, I can't fall back asleep. There's an issue here. Fast forward to the next day. You're a little bit tired. You didn't get the sleep that you needed. You think about how you're a little bit tired. And then that following night, the pressure's on. You feel like you need to stay asleep. You fall asleep fine, and then bang, at the same exact time, you are woken up again. And your first initial instinct is to check the clock, and you identify, no, it is yet again the same time as it was last night. So again, the initial thought is, oh no, something bad's gonna happen. And that again sends another message to your brain. And the problem with that, with kind of that reaction, with that monitoring of the clock, is that we have something very smart inside of us called our circadian rhythm. It is our internal body clock, which is a body clock that is around 24 hours. It is regulated by sunlight and nighttime, meaning that the sunlight is what helps us regulate our body to the cycle of the sun. And when we start reacting to being woken up at a specific time, we're actually ingraining this in our circadian rhythm. We are telling our body there is something that we need to worry about at 3 a.m. Please wake me up at this time. And that all happens from simply reacting negatively to being awake in the first place. So if you continue these nights on and off, and you whenever you maybe have a lot going on the next day and you're already have that like in your mind, your circadian rhythm is actually trying to keep you awake or wake you up at this exact time for a reason, because you have reacted negatively to being awake in the first place, and your body has identified, okay, my protector has identified that at 3 a.m. I need to be awake, so I'm gonna wake her up or wake them up in order to keep them safe. So that's how this actually perpetuates. We have one bad night followed by maybe another, and that's sometimes all it takes is just this initial reaction, those thoughts during the day, and that's enough to already cascade and create this chain reaction in which you are waking up at the exact same time every single day. So now you know how this starts and how this happens. We'll slowly move into what you can actually do about it, because I know it's easier said than done. Like, I can tell you just don't react to being awake, but I know that it's also not that easy. But before we actually get into it, I do want to say that we all, as humans, wake up during the night. We simply do not remember waking up to begin with. So we all wake up during the night, and that is because back when we used to be cave men and cave people, we would have to be very aware of our surroundings in order to keep ourselves safe. So our biology developed to be very smart and for it to wake us up during the night in order to scan our environment. We all wake up at different times, meaning that if we were kind of part of this bigger tribe, somebody would always somewhat be awake at random times in order to fight off any potential threat that we would be identifying in our environment. So even though like maybe your partner or your friends or your family don't experience this, trust me, they are waking up during the night. The difference between you waking up and them waking up is the reaction and the fact that they just don't remember. So let's get into what you can actually do when you are woken up at that same annoying time every single day. So the number one thing that you can start doing tonight that I would encourage every insomniac to do is to have a clock cutoff time. Meaning that if you wake up in the middle of the night, you are no longer going to reach for your phone, reach for the clock. You do not want to check the time. And your natural impulse is going to be one of control, because when we are in our fight and flight mode, control feels like something that is comforting. But in reality, whenever we check the clock, we're either trying to check for positive or negative validation, whether or not we have slept longer than we think we have. So if you have said, I don't know, you check the clock and you're hoping that you have slept 6 to 8 hours and you've only slept 20 minutes, then you are re-engaging that thought pattern of, oh my goodness, this is happening again. And that is creating a negative feedback back into your brain. And similarly, if you have checked the clock and you have slept for 7 hours, you have a positive reaction, which also reinforces that wakefulness is something that needs to be avoided. So number one rule, try your best not to look at the clock. And this may feel a little bit uncomfortable to begin with, because our natural impulse is to control sleep, to control the time, to have full awareness and control as to whether or not we have slept. But please trust me on this one. When we start giving up control and we start realizing that checking and monitoring the time is one thing that is not inside of our control, it actually creates a lot more peace and freedom. And yeah, you'll just start feeling so much better once you actually start realizing that you do not need to check the time in the middle of the night, because realistically, it doesn't actually matter. Number 2, you are going to befriend wakefulness, meaning that instead of trying to escape being awake, you're going to accept it and do something else with your time. When we shift our perspective from one of focusing on achieving sleep to one of simply controlling what we can control, which is what we do with our time, we'll also start realizing that sleep comes to us. And that is because sleep happens in the absence of pressure, and the absence of searching for it. So when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're not gonna look at the clock, and I always suggest my clients have something that they can do on their bedside table. And I know that this isn't kind of possible for absolutely everyone. You can also do this in a separate room. But if you feel like you have shifted from a perspective of feeling like calm and that you can rest into one where you're anxious, overwhelmed, you just feel like you're in that negative thought pattern, I would suggest that you shift your perspective into something else, meaning that you are no longer trying to make sleep happen. You are focusing on something else entirely, which is what you can do with your time. Again, this is not an opportunity for you to do something boring or something that's going to make you tired, because sleep cannot be controlled, meaning that it doesn't matter what you do something you genuinely enjoy, because the more you actually enjoy what you're doing, you're reading a great book, or you're watching a great show, or I don't know, you're listening to a podcast, whatever that is, this is the act of befriending wakefulness. This is the act of teaching your nervous system, hey, look, wakefulness is here, but it is actually okay, and I can actually kind of deal with it and work with it. And number 3 is to check in on how you're reacting to being awake. Automatically, we can sometimes have negative thoughts and emotions to being awake and not wanting to be there. But I'm going to encourage you to shift that dialogue from oh no to oh well, and to also acknowledge how you're also personally speaking to yourself. We as insomniacs are very hard on ourselves. We have a lot of negative self-talk. We oftentimes tell ourselves we're broken, there's something wrong with us, why are we not fixing this? Why can I fix every single other problem in life and not this one? And little that we know that doing this is actually creating more hyperarousal. It is making us more awake. You need self-kindness and compassion in these moments, because you're not being woken up because you are broken or because something's wrong with you. You're being woken up by your body, which is actually trying to protect you. So when you start reacting in a place or from a place of kindness, even though the thoughts are there, you can still come back to thinking, okay, well, what would I tell a friend who is struggling with the same? If my partner was waking up at 3 a.m. and was panicking, how would I comfort them? And I would truly urge you to spend some time acknowledging and thinking, how would I speak to someone or speak to myself in a way that I'd speak to a loved one who is struggling with the same, and truly start practicing how you react and how you start speaking to yourself a little bit kinder. The more we offer ourselves self-kindness and compassion, the less pressure we're putting on sleep and ultimately ourselves, and the more we can also come back to understanding that we are human, we are not broken. This is a survival instinct that is happening for us and not against us. Anyway, that is all for today's video. So if you do struggle with staying asleep in the middle of the night, just know that you are not broken. You are definitely not alone. And if it happens again tonight, you know now that you can stop looking at the clock. You can befriend wakefulness by truly doing something that you enjoy. And number 3, you can really start working on how you react by speaking a little bit kinder and with more compassion towards yourself. And if you do have any other questions, or if you're struggling with insomnia yourself, please go ahead and drop those questions in the comment section, and I promise to get back to you in a timely manner. Bye.